Hello, and welcome to the Mystery Mountain Adventure Through Minis. This is my 12 Days of Christmas Advent series. This one is themed going through the mountains. And this is the year is 2023. So hope if you're watching this, you've got the YouTube link and you're watching it, and maybe you purchased the kit, or maybe you're just watching because you're curious. Who knows? But first of all, Merry Christmas, because today, day one, it's supposed to be Christmas Day. At least that's when this is released, and when you get to open your first little package, unless you opened early, but that's up to you. But first, let me give you a quick synopsis of like the previous years. This is last year's. Last year's was Route 66, and there was 12 mystery colors, and I knitted up. You can knit it up however you like, or crochet it up. I knit up a fingering, and I did this cowl, as you like cowl, and I made these fingerless mitts because the cowl didn't use up all the fingering, and these really have no pattern, but the cowl did. And I decided to put friends on it. So that was last year's Route 66. The year before that was beaches. Let me show you. This is what I made with my 12 different beach colors. Okay. I have to like, if you really want to know the pattern name on that one, I'll have to look it up. Yeah, I almost have it. This is the year before, which was Santa Fe. Flanina wrap. Okay. And so that's what I ended up with that. And so hopefully you can use your mountain kit to make something interesting and fun, or combine it with some other things. Do you. I have got a list of pattern suggestions. I am writing a pattern that I will show you as I knit it up, and I'm sending this knitting pattern to everybody. But I understand that that pattern may not be your thing, and so I have a list of suggestions on my Ravelry page. Maybe you've gotten the link. That would be nice. And I can also send you other suggestions, especially if like you feel like you want to combine it with something else that might expand or change your options rather than just using the 12-20 gram minis. But hopefully if you've gotten my emails, you've gotten some links and everything, including the pattern that I am writing for this one. So you can knit along with me if you feel like it, but don't feel like you have to do that. You can just open these with me, enjoy the inspiration, put them to the side and then decide how you want to knit them up later, because this is a mystery to you. You're not going to know the colors until they're all open anyway. So don't feel like you have to knit along with me, but you're more than welcome to. Let's open day one. Okay, here is my, whoops, let's see down, December 25th, day one. I put the dates on it this year, so just to make it more obvious. And I cut this very carefully just now so that I could open it. If you're going to use scissors, be very careful that all of the contents are away from the scissors. You might want to rip it if you open squishing mail before and cut yarn. Okay, anyway, but here is day one, and let's take it out and see what's in it. Okay, let's show you. First, there's a little note for me. Merry Christmas. And also there is some stitch markers. And if you look at the stitch markers, you should have one snowflake. They may not look exactly like this. Snowflakes are different. And then one little mountain themed one. Get it to hold still. See a little shadow of a mountain. And also I put this in a bag just in case you're, like allergic or something. Also there's a little chocolate mint that I got from Ruth Hunt Candies. It's the Andes. That's a hint for later. But this is mint chocolate, so if you're not into that, give it to somebody else. And then there is the label. Okay. And then there is the yarn. Ta-da! All right. Now, you're going to say, why is a dyer sending me undyed yarn? It's not undyed. This is dyed. This is dyed yarn. If you look at it, it is whiter than natural wool. The natural wool that comes undyed is it like an ivory color, kind of a, you know, tad bit yellow. Now on your screen here, maybe you would never notice any difference, but if you put this up next to some other undyed, which these are all dyed anyway, like here. Maybe you can't see it on that screen, but this is whiter than the ivory. And it is called Mount Everest. Mount Everest. This is dyed in honor of Mount Everest. And like I said, it is whiter than the ivory color of wool. So it is dyed, believe it or not. And it's actually very challenging for me to dye this correctly and not get it too far the other direction. And you can't undye it. So yes, you may see it as white, but it is a very challenging thing to dye. And it is the white of the snow of Everest, because when I was watching all of the videos and the photos of Everest, there's a whole lot of snow. And if you climbed out Mount Everest, which I don't plan to ever, I'm not that talented physically. If you do, this is you would see a lot of white. Here, let me show you a little bit of the inspiration. Let me share my screen. Here's a photo right here of the top. And you can see quite how much white there is. And it is not an ivory white, it is a snow white. And you'll see, you know, the shadows, there's some blue and stuff, and there's definitely rocks. There's flags, but it is all white, white, white. Let me show you, I'm gonna stop sharing that. And I'm going to show you just a snippet of a video, but I'm going to put the link to the full videos in here because I think that's the best way for me to try and share videos that you could, like, if you want to, in the comments section of this video, once it releases, I can put in the links so that you can see like the full video. I just want to show you just like a snippet. Okay, this is from the GoPro Awards. There's tons of Mount Everest videos, but this kind of shows you what it's like to summit in a really nice way, because obviously their GoPro is awarding somebody who used their camera nicely. Look at this. This is getting up to the summit. Look at that. And the summit is 29,035 feet above the sea level, which they're showing meters, of course. I'm used to using feet. And look at that. Look at all the white everywhere, because it never gets above freezing on the summit ever. In fact, it gets down to, here's a couple of facts. It gets down to negative 76 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's like 100 degrees in Fahrenheit, not Celsius, in Fahrenheit, below freezing. Like, yeah, because it's negative 76 Fahrenheit. And what the reason why people can get up to the summit is because they use supplemental oxygen, and they have the assistance of many Sherpas. Sherpas are the people who are from there, and like thousands of years of like genetics have perhaps helped them acclimatize also they're born at higher elevations, but their genetics may be just inclined to be existing at higher altitudes easier. There's a couple of famous Sherpas. Tenzing Norgay is the first one that summited, at least that we've recorded, with Sir Edmund Hillary, the reason why he reached the top in 1953. But there's a bunch of, and there's like there's a whole economy there kind of built on the Sherpas, who do get paid, but don't get paid that much for all of the help that they give to the climbers there. And there, of course, there's controversies about climbing Mount Everest, like how much trash we leave and how the Sherpas are treated and how people die. And we won't get into all that, but it is fascinating. It is fascinating. There's a 2014 documentary called Sherpa Trouble on Everest, which you might find really interesting. And there's also a book from the 1996 summit, John Krakauer, I think, wrote Into Thin Air. And then there's a movie that was based on that. So you can get into all of those things. Let me show you where it is on the globe, because I brought my handy dandy globe. Now, this globe is a couple years old, so you know how countries' names can kind of change. All right, so here we are over here. Here's us, most of us, at least who ordered this kit, we're all in America. But if we go across the Pacific over to China and the border with India, okay, right there is the mountain ranges. And Everest is in actually the border between Nepal and Tibet. But I think the actual summit is on the border. I was trying to figure that out, if it was slightly off the border. But Tibet is officially part of China. Nepal is a separate country. It's not part of India, but like that's how you find it on the map right here. And it is the tallest mountain if you're measuring above sea level. And we'll get into some other mountains later in our 12 days and talk about the other differences. But it is very high above sea level. And many people have tried to sorry, my computer fell over. All right, and many people have tried to summit it. So I'm going to show you what I'm knitting up with this. If you have gotten the pattern, perhaps you've seen this, which I can't show you the pictures of everything knit up because that would ruin it, but this is the overall shape that I am knitting and what the pattern is written for. And you do it in two pieces. You're basically do two triangles. There are other patterns that inspired me to do this. Adventurous Wrap by Amba O'Brien, I will say, okay. And the reason why I had to write my own is because her shape is not the same as my shape. My shape is longer and skinnier. But if you like her pattern, please use hers. And I will tell you that her overall idea inspired me. And but I had to change it. I had to, because I wanted it. I wasn't using as much yarn. It's 12 minis, not like 24. And I wanted it to be long enough to wrap. So here is the overall idea. And you start here and you start there and make two triangles separately and then join them together at the end. So I'm going to go ahead and knit half of day one mini here and then the other half here and go through all 12 colors and they'll meet at day 12. You could totally do something different. Even if you use this pattern, you could go day 1 through 6 here, and then maybe reverse the start with 12 here and then end on day 7. You could do that, which means you would want to wait to do the second one until you opened everything. But that's just an idea. I wanted it to be like a mirror image, kind of like my Santa Fe wrap over there. And so this is what I have knit up. I used one really long needle, and I knit them at the same time, kind of like knitting socks too at the same time. I cast on one part of the needle and then cast on separately from the other end of the same ball. So I can work from the inside of the ball into the outside of the ball and then use it all up. And look, this is my end. I tied a little knot in the middle once I got close enough. And that way I didn't have to do any measuring. I didn't have to weigh on a kitchen scale in grams to know when I'd used half up. And I didn't have to worry about like trying to make one match the other. I was doing like the first side of row one and then the first side of row one on the second one, and then flip it around and do the row two on the second one and then row two on the first one. And that's one reason why I give you two different stitch markers if you happen to do it this way. I could mark the front side of both of them so that they would consistently have the same front side. But I know one is marked with the snowflake and one is marked with the mountains. Okay. And I will put in the pattern if there's any other additional videos to how to do it, because I know not everybody is necessarily going to use this pattern, but this is how it looks with my dyed white in two pieces on the same needle. I used a US 5, that would be in the pattern. But this is how much I knit up with my 20 grams of fingering mini. And you can see it's a really long triangle rather than a right angled triangle. If you like a right angled triangle, then use the pattern that inspired me. And I will, of course, link that. Because lots of people have done it. But just, I needed to change the shape. So I hope you'll join me on day 2 to talk about that inspiration. And you might notice some other things. Should be fun. And we'll talk to you maybe, or talk at you maybe tomorrow. So Merry Christmas. Enjoy your day. I hope it's going great.